people look at the industry and it looks sexy, like, oh yeah, love to open a bar, love to open a
Well,
restaurant. To that person who maybe has limited or no experience in the industry, but maybe has the capital or has a few friends or, and they want to jump in, what would be your first three steps you tell them before they jump into the deep end?
well, as before jumping into deep end, first and foremost, I would say work in a restaurant first.
Hmm.
Work in a restaurant
Hmm.
so you can understand the headaches you're going to deal with as far as your staff, the customers,
Hmm.
um, and then even where you're getting, and then your connections. Like there's plenty of places to go as to acquire information. There's lots of culinary groups that are doing meetings and trying to share knowledge with individuals. And I would say look for those opportunities like the ACF. ACF is in almost every state. I used to travel up to Charlotte because my brother lived up here, and I would come to every ACF meeting, and that's how I was able to get a little more knowledge on what was going on with everything here. So I would say connect with chefs in the area, join the industry first, and then really figure out what is it you want from actually joining the industry. Is it just money? Do you want the satisfaction of feeding others? Do you want uh, just pride in what you do? I mean, you got to figure out those answers first before you jump in, because if it's just money, you'll hate every moment of it.
Welcome back to the Hospitality Hacks Pro podcast. Very special guest on today. And you know what we do here, folks. You're well versed by now. We talk to people in and around the culinary arts and hospitality industry that's doing something interesting, has some nuggets to share with us. And so you know how I like to do. I love for my guests to introduce themselves and give us like a little 60-second snapshot into who they are. So I'm going to kick it over to Chef Mason. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be a part of things here. Tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Chef Mason Martinez. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I've been in the food industry for around 12 years now. I started as a theater major and learned a little bit about the food industry and gained a passion for it. And I've just been stuck with it and been learning throughout the process and been loving the community of the food industry, and just been wanting to be a part of it and give to that community. And so that's kind of what's brought me on this journey and where I'm at today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So born and raised in South Carolina?
That I was born and
Okay.
raised.
Okay. So what brought you to the North Carolina area?
So I was in the food industry for around 12 years, and just kind of, I never went to culinary school, so I've been self-taught. So I've just gone from job to job to different types of industries between Americana, Hispanic, Italian, just a bunch of different things that I'll touch on, and just kind of felt like I had capped out in Columbia, and felt like a bigger city, more people meant a little more opportunity and more growth. So I moved up here 2 years ago, and I would say, been one of the better decisions I've ever made. Um,
Oh,
so
okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. So within the industry, you'd say that the market matters then. Like talent's important, who networking, all that, but the market's important.
extremely, because I mean, there's passion everywhere you go, but if there's not an outlet for that passion, it doesn't really matter how much there is. So you got to go where there is an outlet for it.
Mm.
So there's a little more outlet here with more people, a little more money, and a little more of a international demographic up here. There's a lot more directions to head in, and a lot more creativity to be able to work with here, as far
Got
as Columbia, at least.
got you. Got you. So take me back. Let's kind of backtrack a little bit. What
Okay.
was your very, very first job in the industry?
So I started as a front of house, believe it or not, at a sandwich shop. I was a theater major in college, and then I had to be a little realistic with myself. I wanted to be a movie star, and you kind of have to be born into that industry. So I needed money, so I started serving tables at a sandwich shop, and then I also started washing dishes at a Asian restaurant. And so I started to see the ins and outs of a restaurant and actually what went into cooking. I never knew anything about cooking growing up, and once I saw the ins and outs of everything going on and the magic and the dance of a kitchen and in the science of how cooking reacts with itself, and it just really drew me in, and I was like, I want to learn that. And so I started just started learning and haven't stopped since. So yeah, I went from sandwich shop to serving tables to where I washed their dishes, learned how to do everything in the kitchen, and then went from there, and then started doing hibachi, became a sushi chef, and again, I can keep going, but there's a long list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty well rounded. I also started in the front of the house as a server, bartender, and then kind of migrated around. Did some, and that's kind of the nature of our industry. You stick around long enough, you'll put your hands on a few different things if you stick and stay. Right?
Absolutely. And so that was kind of how I looked at it. I was like, what can I learn here? What can this give me? And then once I kind of learned everything I could, I jumped to the next thing, and just have used that as my culinary classes, as so I'll get paid while learning. So it was the best route that I could see.
It's interesting that you say that because I oftentimes have people ask me that, should I go to culinary school, or they'll have a young person in their life, nephew, son, daughter, is like, oh, they have a passion for cooking, they want to go to culinary school, and sometimes they're shocked when I tell them culinary school is good. You'll learn a lot.
Hmm.
You'll meet some great people, but if you can get underneath somebody who's willing to train and teach you, and get paid to learn on the job,
Exactly.
it's kind of, you can't beat that, you
Yeah,
know.
and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot to be said about culinary school, because I mean, there's still moments to where, I mean, I have weaknesses, so I mean, there's moments I wouldn't mind going and like seeing if there's something else I could learn. But if I was to recommend anyone, I would say work in the industry first, then go to culinary school, because that way you can kind of figure out what do you want from culinary school. It's
Hmm.
different between just getting this mass amount of knowledge, but once you can understand what direction you want to head in the industry, then that's where culinary school can really help.
And then also you can see if you even like it.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
that is fair. Yeah, there's a difference between cooking and being in the industry.
Man, yeah, for real. Okay. All right, so we're in school, we need money, we're trying to find a way. We go to a sandwich shop, we migrate, we do some sushi stuff, hibachi stuff, theater major. Take me take me what fill in the gap for me. How do we, first of all, tell the people what you do now, and
Okay.
then how do we kind of get to the place that you are now?
All right. Well, right now, so I run a test lab and culinary studio. It's called the Lab at Swanson Gerard. So I essentially sell high-end kitchen equipment and do private events. I also work with companies on menu innovation, kitchen design. Just we're culinary solutions business. So anything that we can do to help as far as anything in the culinary. So again, I can train you how to use equipment, provide solutions to your business, work with you on food waste, um, just a multitude of things. But as far as how I got here, um, again, so I started as front of house. That I felt that was a good side of things. then with Asian cuisine, it really taught me a lot about knife work and how important knife work is. Then I got to do hibachi, so it got me a lot of experience with cooking in front of people, quick pace cooking with woks and
Mm.
fryers. Then sushi was the more fine. Um, you like really have to be clean, really have to be cautious, worry about your presentation and everything as far as that. Um, then I went to a Mediterranean restaurant to where I learned pizzas and pastas and saute and broilers and cooking steaks and things like that. Then I went to a seafood restaurant to where I got the ins and outs of seafood. Then I became a private event chef to where I got to learn how to do buffets, do private events, really doing like one-on-one cooking with individuals, to where I was able to cook for like news channels and politicians and things along those lines, which
Mm.
was a great experience. And so I also worked at a Hispanic restaurant, got to learn some Hispanic cuisine. Um, Worked at another Americana restaurant as well. Then I I knew I still had room to improve, but I wanted to utilize the information that I already had. So two friends and I started a restaurant together called The Daily Grind. One friend of mine did the money side, one friend of mine did the coffee side, and I did the food side. So I was able to really see the ins and outs of opening a restaurant, knowing how important the equipment is, your kitchen design, your menu design, your staff training, uh, the health codes. I mean, that was an endless learning opportunity. And then at the same time, I was the sous chef at a fine dining restaurant, to where I was really able to learn the ins and outs of fine dining and in different types of cooking, and using local food and food waste and things along those lines. So it was all just like all the experience kind of built upon itself to
Mm.
give me the experience that I have today. And so I've gone from there, and then I ran a Italian restaurant, North Italia, out in South End for about 9 months before I acquired this job. Um, and so that's been at least a little bit of the journey to where I am today, at least.
You've been a busy guy.
Yeah, working smart was never my forte, but I do know how to work hard. So
Okay. All right. So let me ask you this, because you also mentioned you had a business venture and a restaurant venture. A lot of times people look at the industry and it looks sexy, like, oh yeah,
mm,
love to open a bar, love to open a
oh,
restaurant. To that person who maybe has limited or no experience in the industry, but maybe has the capital or has a few friends, or and they want to jump in, what would be your first maybe three bits of advice, first three steps you tell them before they just jump into the deep end?
well, before jumping into deep end, first and foremost, I would say work in a restaurant first.
Hmm.
Work in a restaurant so
Hmm.
you can understand the headaches you're going to deal with as far as your staff, the customers,
Hmm.
um, and then even where you're getting, and then your connections, and and like there's plenty of places to go as to acquire information. There's lots of culinary groups that are doing meetings and trying to share knowledge with individuals, and I would say, um, kind of look for those opportunities like the ACF. ACF is in almost every state. I used to travel up to Charlotte because my brother lived up here, and I would come to every ACF meeting, and that's kind of how I started to meet the people in the industry up here, and that's how I was able to get a little more knowledge on what was going on with everything here. So I would say, yeah, connect with chefs in the area, join the industry first, and then really figure out what is it you want from actually joining the industry. Is it just money? Do you want the satisfaction of feeding others? Do you want just pride in what you do? I mean, you got to figure out those answers first before you jump in, because if it's just money, you'll hate every moment of it, because it's going to take every moment of your day. It's not just something you can dedicate a little bit of time to, unfortunately. It will take most of your time, but if it's something you take pride and joy in, and if you look forward to feeding those people that come in, then yes, it will be worth it for you.
Mhm. 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 Okay, so that's some good stuff. So you said work in the industry, get your hands
Mhm.
dirty, figure out if you like it,
Yep.
make connections, join different groups around the
Yep.
city. ACF specifically mentioned there's multiple groups you can
Yep.
join,
Yeah. Multiple.
and
Um,
and then know your why. Like, why are you getting into this? Is it just a money grab? What's going on? That's some solid advice.
yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's the best I can give. And yeah, you connect with people that are in the industry. No
Mhm.
one's trying to do you dirty. We're all in this together. People are going to give you the best advice they know how to give. So
Mhm.
just reach out and ask.
Mhm. So, do you miss being in the restaurant kitchen?
There's moments.
Mhm.
It, it's nice being away from the stress of that constant. You have to be on 100% for hours upon hours, in charge of X amount of people, in charge of everything going on. I mean, there's beauty to the dance, but once you do it for around 10 years, it does start to wear on you.
Mhm.
To where, I mean, the main things I enjoy now is having the freedom of creativity, to be able to explore the food industry.
Mhm.
So I enjoy being able to change the forms of food, find new flavor combinations that I've never experienced, or I don't think anyone has experienced, or
Mhm.
finding local cuisines. It's like, you've been born and raised in this area. Have you had this local thing that only grows here? So I love like introducing little magical moments like that to people and or myself.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I ask you that question. People ask me that all the time. So now that I've kind of stepped away from being in the restaurant, I'm in the classroom now teaching, and it's a totally different experience. Still dealing with food daily, but in a totally different kind of perspective and lens. And I echo what you like. Sometimes I'll feel a little ping, like I miss the hustle bustle, and
Yeah.
then but I'm definitely fulfilled in what I'm doing now. So since you've been able to touch so many things, front of the house, back of the house, different types of cuisine, even now in more of a, really, I guess you would call it a sales role,
Mm.
or how do you, yeah,
Yeah,
how do
yeah,
you,
I would say so. I mean, it's a sales role, but also, again, a solutions role, because
mhm,
I mean, with things like this, I also do charity events and things
mhm,
like that.
yeah,
I also teach I taught two culinary classes this past month,
cool,
just cooking without sodium, to
ah,
yeah, to the School Nutrition Association. So um, so I'm always trying to expand my horizons, essentially. So yeah, sales is correct,
yeah.
but also a little bit of everything else.
I get you. So what do you feel like you like the most now that you've had a chance to kind of touch a bunch of different things, see a lot of different things? Where, like, if I said, hey, you can only do this one role for the rest of your career and you have to pick right now, what would you
Mhm.
what would you pick?
I would say, I mean, that's tough. So I think with the way my career has developed, the one thing that I do enjoy the most, is going into the unknown. Is It's like, I don't like repeating dishes. I don't like going backwards. I always like taking what I know and changing it into something else. So it's always, I guess, I don't know, just recreating what I know. So it's not exactly sticking to one thing that I already know. It's always just creating something I've never done. Is I would say is my favorite thing. It's just being able to say make brand new flavor combinations. So it's like this past week I competed in the American Heartball, and I was able to win the People's Choice Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. And so just those moments, it's like I created a dish and I'm like, these flavor combinations should not go together. But I was just, I mean, over the moon that it happened. So I would say I know that's more of a cop out answer, but that's more of what I would say.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me like you have to be touching food in some capacity then.
Yes, very much so. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it all stems around. As long as
Yeah.
I get to create, I mean that's where my passion is just creating and expanding on exploring life. And food is very much a part of life. People are very much a part of life. And when you can create and change with food, you can get to create and change with people as well and form
Yeah.
community, which is everything.
Yeah. That's definitely true. And the way I explain it to my kids in the classroom is if you think about it, every major event in life, there's food, right?
Hmm.
There's a birth, we having a baby shower,
Yep.
there's food. Someone passes away, there's a funeral, there's food, weddings, birthday parties. Like you can't get away from it. It's one of those connectors that brings and binds people together.
Yep. Every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being able to be a part of that is a gift in and of itself.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So what's next on the horizon for you? Give me a peek. We're winding down 2022, gearing up for a new year. What are some goals you have for this coming year, either personally, professionally, or what's going on?
So as far as this next year, this past year, I've really just been trying to get my feet on the ground with understanding this new side of the industry. Um, so I've just been really, as far as future plans, been trying to, now that I have more of a concrete job and a more of a springboard for myself, I kind of want to use this next year to kind of develop my style as a chef, to be able to create a little bit of individuality in my cuisine. Uh, and then I also just want to make more of a footprint in Charlotte to to join the community here a little bit more. I'm new to the scene, and I did everything I could to be a part of the community down in Columbia. And I mean, that's always been the most important thing to me is we're we're all we're all stuck here in life and we're all having to fight the same battles. And so we're all in this together. So the least I can do is try to give to the community. And
Mhm.
so that's more where my priorities lie. So I would say, yeah, just establishing my style as a chef, giving to the community, um, and then maybe try to create something of my own. I have been trying to. It's a little off the wall. Put together a dinner for the Professional Disc Golf Association because
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Charlotte is the disc golf capital of the world, actually.
Oh, you just
Uh,
taught me something.
Yep.
Okay.
Little, yeah,
Okay.
little fun fact.
Okay.
And they have the championship here
Mm.
every year in
Mhm.
November. So
Mhm.
I've been working on contacting some people to try to put together a annual dinner,
Mhm.
which I think could be a big opportunity for the city. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So that's kind of my goals as of right now.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, if our interaction is any indication, you're gonna blow it out of the water. I mean, we started kind of chatting randomly at an event, and I was like, "Ooh, let's finish this conversation on the podcast." You're like, "Cool, here's my number," and then here we are. So you're networking it up out here.
Yeah, well, I more than appreciate you taking the time to have me on here to tell my story. And it's definitely it's refreshing, and it's nice after 12 years of putting my head down and working hard to actually have things start to pay off. Is
Mm-hmm.
I did get discouraged along the way, and I did almost quit the food industry, but
Mm.
I kept pushing,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's what I was passionate for.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was eager and I kept pushing, those were honestly the two most important th- traits that has gotten me where I am today,
Mm.
is eager and willing.
Mm.
And I would say that to anyone uh, going in the food industry. As long as you're eager and willing, anyone can work with you, and anyone is willing to work with you. Skills can be learned.
That is so true. That is so true. If you know, eager, willing, and I think that I call it being coachable, but it's that same idea. Like you're
Hmm.
willing to take feedback and grow and change
Yeah,
and pivot and yeah,
exactly. You're
yeah,
willing to put that foot forward.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what do you think, can you pinpoint, was it one thing or something somebody said to you that made you stick and stay when you were feeling discouraged, like maybe trying to quit or thinking about quitting, that made you say, I'm gonna push a little harder?
Well, honestly, I would say the things that probably kept me going are the people that took the time to lean in and put effort in towards me. The people that didn't have to take the time out of their day to stop and go, hey, let me show you this, or go, hey, like, I see that you're working hard, and they show appreciation for it, or take that extra moment to show me a little extra something. It's those individuals that kept me going, because I saw that they didn't have to do that kind of stuff, and I was like, that's what I want for myself. Is I want to be these people that are willing to take the time. For me, is I want to be that person for someone else. And I would say those are more of the things that kept me going. Is, again, the community of it, is the fact that so many people wanted me to succeed, um, that it drove me to keep, um, if it's like they can see this in me, then maybe there is something to it. So I kept believing in myself because other people would.
Mm, that's good. That's good. Okay, I like that. So I always ask my guests this, chef, and hopefully you have some more nuggets for us because you've been dropping some good stuff on us. But because I work with young people who are trying to figure it out, right?
Mm,
So high school, you don't know what you want to do in high
absolutely not.
school. But some of them do find a spark in the kitchen,
Mm,
that excitement of creation that you talked about.
right.
What would you say to those young people that are trying to figure it out, maybe aren't really sure exactly what they want to do, but they're trying different things and kind of sticking their toe in the water? What advice would you give them on how to kind of narrow down what direction to go?
As far as if you're choosing the food industry, I would say, just get a bunch of part-time jobs. Get like 3 part-time jobs at once. It'll suck for a second, but then it gives you a better idea of what each and every place has to offer. Or if you get 3 different cuisines, then you can see the ins and outs of each. Um, it's the best way to that's what I did. Sometimes I had 3 jobs at once, just to one, have a little bartering power in between restaurants, and for a little knowledge. But as far as getting into the industry, it was just, for me, it's I saw it, and again, I had a passion for it, and I just kind of chose to run with it. I was like, there's every other option in the world to choose, but I'm going to choose to open this store. That was always a terrifying thing for me, was you open one door, on 100 doors shut behind you. And so but if you never open a door, then what's the point of all the open doors?
Mm,
And so sometimes you just gotta run in a direction. And I think that's where most people struggle, is that I don't know. I'm not sure what direction. And I don't think you're ever really going to know till it just hits you right in the face. So I would just say keep running at every opportunity you can, and the answers will present themselves, and the wrong ones will present themselves as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that sometimes it just hits you in the face because when I was figuring it out personally, would I always did food service as kind of like because I knew I could, like, oh, I need
Hmm.
money, let me do, until I finally decided, oh, I'm good at this. Why don't I make this a career?
Yeah.
You know?
It was,
Yeah.
I always struggled with, I'm like, what am I good at? What am I good at? I don't know. And then I started to think about like what I actually have enjoy in life. And I'm like, I love nature. Uh, I enjoy like experiencing life. I enjoy being physically active. And then I'm like, all of these things. Cooking is working with nature, and that it's science. So it's the reaction of everything. I mean, it is 100% physical,
Hmm.
and very mentally taxing. But then also, uh, you're always experiencing something new with cooking, and um, different environments and different customers, and all kinds. It's you might be cooking the same menu, but it's always different.
Hmm.
Um, and so once I kind of understood all those things, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then, I mean, the more and more I've gone through it, it's only made more sense. Um, so I would say, yeah, figure out your passions, and kind of do the pros and cons with the industry.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure. For sure. So, chef, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, they say, that's a solutions guy. I need solutions.
Yeah.
Tell the people if they want to reach out how they can find you.
All right. So if you want to get in contact with me, which I will happily, if you just want to have a chat or need some culinary solutions or anything I might be able to help you with, you can either find me on social media. I'm on Facebook or Instagram, or you can find me on, go to thelabtestkitchen.com, or you can send me an email at uh, mmartinez at swanson/gerard.com.
Boom. There it is. What's your Instagram handle?
That it's Mason_Martinez with two Z's.
Mason_Martinez. There you have it. I have one last question and then I'm going to let you go. I know you said before we started you weren't feeling 100% today, so I'm not going to hold you. But we started this conversation saying that you were into theater. I'm curious, do you still have the theater bug? Do you still do some acting?
So as far as acting, I mean, considering I run a test lab and culinary studio, I do have studio seating in front of my kitchen. So I have around 20 seats. So I still have to perform in a manner of speaking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I have kind of fallen off. I do occasional. So I used to be a part of an improv group.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do occasional like improv things as like either warm ups or icebreakers with people. But not so much being a paid actor anymore.
I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. I couldn't let you go before I asked
Oh no, that's
that.
fair. If you find me on Facebook, there's many of embarrassing theater pictures. So
Okay, okay, okay. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the show. We should definitely stay connected.
absolutely,
And once if you need anything, I always have people asking me for jobs, gigs, or wanting to get experience. And you sound like somebody who has benefited from people taking you under their wing. And so,
very
and
very
and
much
you
so.
know, yeah, we always try to maintain that spirit of reciprocity. So if
Yeah,
you want some
it's.
hands in the kitchen or serving or whatever, I got you covered.
Hey, I appreciate that. It's one of my favorite things to say is we're all in this together.
For
So
sure. For sure.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
I greatly appreciate you taking the time to have me on your podcast, though. I greatly appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. There you have it, folks. I will drop the contact info in the chat box below if you want to get in contact with Chef Mason. Thank you for watching the Hospitality Hacks Pro podcast. We'll see you next time.